Okay, let's dive right into this. I mean, have you ever really thought about what it would take to build something, well, something permanent? Not just a successful company or a popular brand, but something so foundational that an entire industry ends up being built on top of it? That's what we're digging into today. The philosophy behind that kind of permanent authority. And honestly, it all kicks off with this idea right here. This quote, it's the key to the whole thing. See, the goal isn't about being the biggest, most powerful player on the field. Nope. The goal is to become the field itself, the actual ground everyone else plays on. All right, so first up, we need to talk about that ground. I mean, before you can even think about building something that lasts forever, you got to understand what permanence even is, right? And way back in Greek mythology, they had a name for it. And that name was Gaia. Yeah, this really gets to the heart of it. Gaia wasn't just another goddess in the lineup. She was, well, she was the first thing. Older than all the other gods. She wasn't a metaphor for the earth. She was the earth. Think about it. While all the Olympians were bickering, fighting, and caught up in all their fleeting dramas, Gaia was just there, the permanent foundation, before them, during, and long after they were gone. And that is the model we're talking about, building something so fundamental that it just outlasts every single trend that comes and goes. Okay, so we've got the myth, which is a great starting point. But let's see how this idea evolves from a story into, a full-blown philosophical system. The Greeks had Gaia, but it was actually Aristotle who came along and drew up the blueprints for this idea of a permanent substrate. He's the one who gave us the framework to really wrap our heads around it. His first big idea is something called prime matter. The easiest way to think about it is like the ultimate raw material. It's the stuff that's always there no matter what you do to it, like clay. It doesn't matter if you shape that clay into a pot or a tile or a brick, the clay itself is still there underneath. It's that absolute unchanging foundation. Next up, we've got the arche. Now, this is super important. It's not just about being first in line. The arche is the foundational starting point that everything else gets measured against or refers back to. So in today's world, the arche is the source everyone cites, right? It's the first result that pops up, the core answer that everyone else has to build on or react to. And this brings us to the end goal, the big finale, entelechy. I love this concept. It's basically the full, complete expression of what something was always meant to be. The source uses a perfect analogy. The acorn has finally become the oak tree. That's entelechy. It's that moment when you haven't just grown, you have fully arrived, you are complete. The potential is fully realized. Okay, so we've got the myth of Gaia, we've got Aristotle's philosophy, awesome, right? But so what? How do we take these huge ancient ideas and actually use them? How do you build a Gaia authority in your field, like right now? Well, that's exactly where we're headed next. And boom, here it is. This is the bridge. This is the aha moment that connects it all. That ancient idea from Aristotle, prime matter, that permanent underlying stuff. What's the modern version of that? Well, the source calls it the canonical record. And that's the whole game right there. It's about becoming the foundational, go-to, absolutely trusted source of truth for your entire domain. And here's what's so crucial to get. Gaia Authority isn't something you can just claim or put in your bio. It's something you become. You become that canonical source that new people in the field just take for granted. They cite you as a given. You've built your foundation so deeply and for so long that you're just part of the landscape now. You don't have to shout about your authority because you are the ground. And let's be clear, this isn't about one viral video or some clever marketing campaign. Forget that. This is a slow, systematic build. It's about applying your core principles over and over and over again. You're playing the long game, accumulating that authority layer by layer, brick by brick, until one day you wake up and you're not just a player in the domain anymore, you're part of its actual structure. So in this last section, let's talk about the payoff. After all that work, what does this long game actually get you? What does it feel like to go from just a tiny seed of an idea all the way to becoming the foundational ground for an entire ecosystem? Let's break it down. I think this timeline is fantastic because it makes this huge abstract idea feel really tangible. It's a growth process. You start as a seed, right? Just getting crystal clear on what you are. Then you start putting down roots through consistent, relentless work. Eventually, that work builds up and becomes the trunk, a solid, unmovable part of the landscape. And then finally, you hit that entelechy stage. You become the mighty oak tree, the Gaia Authority. It's just a totally natural and incredibly powerful progression. Now this slide is basically the Rosetta Stone for this whole philosophy. It translates all this cool ancient stuff into a practical modern framework. Just look at it. It maps the myth directly to, well, to revenue infrastructure. Gaia, the ancient ground, that becomes the permanent ground of your domain. Prime matter? That's your canonical record, the thing people trust without question. The arche? That means you're the first reference, the top result, the go-to answer. When you pull this off, you're not just building a brand anymore. You're literally building the essential infrastructure that everyone else in your field has to rely on. And man, that is an absolutely unshakable position to be in.
And one last thing to remember here. This isn't about just being good at one thing. The source material makes it clear that achieving this is a synthesis of seven core disciplines all working together. We're talking about everything from the rhetoric of trust all the way to the philosophy of the long game. It's a really deep, really comprehensive strategy.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway, the core message of this whole idea. In a world that is completely obsessed with speed and hacks and shortcuts, the lesson here is pretty simple but profound. If you want to build something that truly, genuinely lasts, something with permanent authority, then the long game isn't just a game, it's the only game. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. In this world that we're all in, a world of instant gratification and quick wins, is playing the long game really the only one worth playing? Is building something permanent, something that might take decades of your life, the only victory that actually matters in the end? It's definitely something to think about.